Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the information session on the Masters of Education in Mathematics Education at the University of British Columbia, UBC. My name is Dr. Cynthia Nicol, and I am a professor in the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy at UBC's Faculty of Education. And I also hold the David Robitaille Professorship in Mathematics and Science Education. And I'm also the coordinator of this Masters of Education program. We've had a bit of a chance to chat with some of you who are joining us in this session. And we have people from the Lower Mainland near Vancouver and UBC. We have people who are on Canada's Atlantic coast, and we have people in the far north of Canada. So welcome. First, let me start with some acknowledgements. And I want to acknowledge that I am coming to you right now from the traditional and unceded ancestral territories of the Hunkaminam speaking people, right where the Fraser River, which you can see in my image here, splits to the north arm and the south arm before meeting again in the Pacific Ocean. And I have to say, like, with this restriction of movement during the pandemic and me working from these lands in this spot for pretty much the last 2 years, I've really had a chance to get to know these lands better and differently, and with opportunities to reflect on how we can better care for this land and our relations with each other. So I also want to recognize that the program is offered through UBC, and UBC is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And then I'd also like to thank and acknowledge each of you, those who will be listening later to this session and those who are attending right now. Thanks for taking the time to learn more about our exciting program as a Masters of Education in Mathematics Education. And our theme of our program is teaching and learning mathematics with and in community. So thanks for thinking about a master's, thinking about joining UBC, and thinking more about how we can deepen our own understanding of teaching and learning math. So the agenda for our session is as follows. I've already introduced a bit about myself, but I should also mention that Yvette Kharoubeh is a senior program assistant with the Office of the UBC Professional Development and Community Engagement. And she will talk a bit about how to apply and the application process to this master's program. And I will talk a little bit about the program itself, how it's structured, what are the details of the themes and some of the courses. And then we'll have some time for talking a bit about the impact and what the people who are currently in the first cohort are doing. And so you can get a sense of the products and the outcome of it. And then we'll have some time for some questions and answers from you. So let's start with the highlights of the program. So, and some of this you probably are already a little bit familiar with. The program is virtual through the UBC Vancouver campus. It begins this September in 2022. The program is about 2 years and a term long. You can do it just in 2 years, but the entire program is 2 years and 1 term, which is 10 courses. And it is a part-time program. It's totally online, but it's courses, as I'll talk about later. Some courses offer optional Zoom sessions like every couple of weeks or so that you can get to know and have some discussion with in a more live format. The program itself is designed for practicing educators, teachers, administrators across all disciplines. And you do not need, I repeat, you do not need a degree in mathematics or science or a specialty in those areas. If you are teaching math and science, or you are a teacher leader in this area, or you'd like to learn more about teaching and learning mathematics as a tutor at any level, this program will be useful for you and a benefit to you, and you will get something out of it. And as I mentioned, the theme is teaching and learning mathematics with and in community. The philosophy, or I want to just, before I talk about the philosophy, I want to just say just a couple statements about why why UBC and what UBC can offer you if you were to choose this program. So first of all, UBC has a long history of graduates in master's programs and doctoral programs who are now practicing teachers, who are leaders in their districts and in their schools, and who are academics making a contribution to the field of math education. And you'll find our graduates across UBC, across Canada, and internationally. This particular program is designed to meet the needs of those who are not only living around the close enough access to UBC, but also people who are maybe a few hours away where it's just really hard to get to start a 4:30 class on time. And for those who are living in rural and urban areas across the province and Canada. So I wish I had a program like this when I went for my master's degree, when I was teaching on BC's Pacific Coast, so I could continue to live in the community and also engage in professional development with people across the province in Canada. It would have helped me have the choice of whether or not I wanted to stay or to leave. So it gives you an opportunity to still be a vibrant member of a graduate program, but also by still not physically leaving your home. You'll have opportunities to learn from some of the world's experts in mathematics education who are outstanding educators and researchers. So a little bit about the philosophy of the program. I just highlighted these 4 aspects of interrelatedness, relationships, respect, and reciprocity, of opportunities to engage in these, but also thinking about that these 4 principles are what guides the program itself. So trying to think about this first one of interrelatedness, how we emphasize the threaded connections between what you're doing in your practice as a teacher or administrator or leader, and what we can read about in current theories of teaching and learning mathematics. And I think as teachers, we are always researchers at the same time. So we're always engaging and thinking about how can I do this better? You know, how can I better reach this particular student? Or how can I make this class more engaging, more interesting, more full of curiosity and wonder? And how can research help me do that as well? So what does research say about this? But also how can I draw upon my own experiences? So that interrelatedness is a really key aspect of how the courses are designed in the program. Relationships focus on opportunities to bring people together, to share our experiences and our expertise. And we will have people in the program from kindergarten up to grade 12. And that diversity brings so much richness to the program. And we also have people in our current program who have degrees in the sciences, some degrees in mathematics, some degrees in early childhood education, but all with the same interest in trying to think about how can we improve our teaching and learning of mathematics? How can we teach mathematics, as Francis Su says, mathematician Francis Su talks about it as human flourishing. Respect, thinking about respect in terms of engaging critically in some of the work that we're doing around math education research, and to support all our students in exploring and reimagining possibilities for what mathematics can offer us, and having that grounded in our own relationships and experiences as teachers. And then reciprocity. So this idea of taking a work and giving it back to the community. So how can we use what we're learning in the program to make our communities better, our schools richer, our classrooms more full of mathematical discussion and opportunities to have that mathematical curiosity and wonder. So you'll see that many of the assignments and the activities take us out into the community to also involve community members in thinking about teaching and learning mathematics. So that is why we have the theme, or kind of builds on and contributes to the theme of teaching and learning math with and in community, and how we might think about using mathematics as a way to both interpret and understand the world, but also as a way to change it. So I have the next couple slides just here focus on some ideas of what you would be having opportunities for when you're in the program. So as I mentioned, thinking about, this is what math educator Eric Gutstein following Brazilian educational philosopher Paulo Freire, talking about how we can use math to better understand the world. And you can certainly see many examples of that with trying to use mathematics to understand the rate of growth of the COVID pandemic, just as an example. Exploring mathematics within community context to try to think about how we can evoke mathematical curiosity in lots of different kinds of public spaces like libraries and malls, teaching and learning gardens, just being out on the street, like mathematics on the street. This has been hard to do with the pandemic, but we've had some really creative sharing that I can share with you a little bit later, of taking like a family math fair that we usually have every year in a room, a couple of rooms at UBC, and turning that into a virtual family math fair with many people that were involved in that. And then studying theories about how children learn best and the various contexts in which thinking can occur mathematically across disciplines and across contexts. There's also opportunities for looking at the role that mathematics plays in looking at social and ecological issues, trying to better understand inequities and trying to think about mathematics for justice, trying to think about how we can use theory and practices about teaching and learning mathematics that take us outside the four walls, like a container of the classroom, and thinking about how the community, how the garden can be a place, how the land can be a places to be able to not only teach, but also learn mathematics. And then mentioning, as I just mentioned, looking at the community and thinking about social and ecological justice as places to explore mathematics. So looking at mathematics and fast fashion, mathematics and poverty, mathematics and environmental justice, where these are mathematics in your own community with issues that are important to you and the community. So these are various contexts that I've just listed here that form much of the readings and the context of the program. So thinking about cultural spaces, urban, rural, and indigenous spaces, looking at artistic performances and learning about mathematics through the arts, thinking about mathematics in family settings, public spaces, and issues that are important to communities. So the next couple of slides will just take you through how the program is structured over the 2 years and 1 term. As I mentioned, it is part-time, which allows you to work at the same time, work full-time, and then take 1 course each term across the 2 years, and then plus the extra term in the second year. So in the first year, we started in September with the course Introduction to Curriculum Issues and Theories, where you learn a little bit more about you dig a bit deeper into curriculum and some philosophies around curriculum. Why is curriculum designed the way it is? And how can we learn to think about curriculum differently? And then in the January term of that first year, we take a course called Mathematics Education in Community, and that gets us into the community, thinking about mathematics, as we mentioned, beyond the walls of the classroom. You also take a course in research methodologies, learning to read and interpret research, and you'll work on doing a literature review in an area that's of interest to you, and how to learn from research in order to be able to practice something and try something out in your classroom. And then in the spring, you'll take a course called Teaching Children Mathematics. So looking at research around principles and ideas and theories about practices of teaching children, and then learning to listen to children to make sense of their understanding and thinking, mathematical thinking. You'll have opportunities for electives in the summer term, and I'll talk a bit more about where you can find those electives. You can take them either face-to-face on campus, or you can do those online. In the second year, you have 3 courses starting in September with a course around social and ecological justice and mathematics, a course in January on looking at embodied learning through the arts and mathematics, and then a course in the spring around learning to research your own practice as a mathematics educator, whether you're in the field of tutoring or the field of being in the classroom, or you're an administrator or teaching at the university level. We can think about how we can study our own practice as educators as a way to improve our practice. We can do that individually and we can do it collaboratively, and that course will help us learn more about how we can do that. And then you have another opportunity for more electives. So you can see here by this point, you'll have taken 9 courses. And the 10th course, you have an option of taking a 500 level graduating paper, which can be a culminating paper on an area of interest to you. And you will do that with me and another faculty member to help give you the support that you need to be able to take an area of interest and unpack that. You can write a paper, you could do some video performances, you could write a paper to a practice applying to a conference or presenting at a conference. There are lots of different options that this graduating paper can look like. You could try something out in your classroom and study it, for example. So lots of options there. But if you would prefer that you would rather take a course at the 500 level, you just need approval for that, and you could take that instead in that September term. You can also finish a little bit earlier than that if you'd like. You could finish by the end of August by taking that course or starting a graduating paper in the spring, summer, fall term as well. So that's a bit of the structure of the program. The electives themselves, you can take on campus at UBC, or you can take them online. You could take them also from various universities that UBC has an agreement with, so that you don't need to pay any extra tuition. So that is called the Western Dean's Agreement. So you can look through there and see which universities participate in that. And then there's also another agreement with McGill University, the University of Toronto, and the University of Montreal that gives you access to courses, approved courses that you can use towards this degree. Some are online, or if you wanted to travel there and do those face-to-face, you could do that as well, but those could all count towards your electives for this program. Okay, so I am going to share it now, or pass it to Yvette, who will talk a little bit more about the program application process. And then I'll come back and talk a bit more about the program impact and the accomplishments of the first cohort, and so you can get a sense of what people are actually doing as they make their way through the cohort.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yvette, and I'm going to cover the admissions and application process. This program is online and part-time. So I'm going to cover the admission requirements, do the application overview, and cover tuition and student fees, and take questions at the end. So for program contacts, Dr. Cynthia Nicol for any academic questions you may have. She's your cohort advisor. And for any administrative questions, such as processing applications, administrative and student support, course registration, etc., you would be contacting me. So what we're looking for is a 4-year undergraduate degree with a B+, which is a 76% at UBC in all of your senior level courses, which are 300 level and above. Or if you're in the B range, with a 68% with a 4-year undergraduate degree plus a B.Ed, then you would meet the admission requirements. But if you do not meet the GPA requirement, the admissions committee can write what is called a special case rationale, recommending you to the Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies to be admitted to the program. We also ask that you order 2 official sealed transcripts from all post-secondary institutions that you've attended, with the exception of UBC, because I have access to UBC records. And we ask you to upload them to your application front and back pages in a single file as a PDF. Now, you would do that for each institution. And if you've attended, if you have done an exchange program, or you have received transfer of credit from another institution and it appears on your undergraduate degree, or anywhere else, we need to see those transcripts as well. So they will need to be uploaded to your application. We're also looking for a statement of intent with a maximum words of 600 words. Your statement should outline your professional goals for enrolling in this program and specializing in mathematics education and teaching and learning mathematics within your community. We're also looking for a resume that includes your education, employment history, volunteer work, committee work, workshops, anything related to this program, like in terms of your experience and background. As well, we're looking for 1 to 2 years of teaching experience or equivalent teaching engagement with schools, local or international communities, and other related activities than those with demonstrated professional experience in this area of study. Now, we're also looking for 3 letters of recommendation, and your referees could be administrators, professors, educators, or other professionals who can speak to your engagement in the field. And your potential to complete a graduate degree and other relevant professional experience. References should be submitted electronically. So once you've entered your referee information on the application, and then you submit your application, an e-reference link goes out to your referees. They can either use the form provided or upload their own letter, and instructions are provided to them. Now, if referees choose to mail reference letters, they could mail it to the PDCE office, and I could send you the email, send you the address if you wish. We do not accept references by email or by phone. As well, if they are to mail out these reference letters, we ask that they sign the seal on the flap of the envelope. Now, applicants from a university outside of Canada in which English is not primary language of instruction must provide results of an English language proficiency examination as part of your application. Tests must have been taken within the last 24 months at the time of submission of your application, and please contact me if this applies to you. Now, students in this program are considered as part-time students, which means that there are certain things that you are not eligible for, such as scholarships, grants, bursaries, loans, or financial aid. Now, after you submit your application, a student number is assigned to you. The number next to your name in the top left corner of the application and below applying to UBC. You should see it in that space. So then we ask you to download an acknowledgement of part-time status form. We need you to fill it out, add your student ID number, sign it, and upload it to the question. Now, if you have an existing UBC ID number, we ask that you use that for your application. Do not create another one. Now, applying to the program, we ask that you go to grad.ubc.ca/apply/online. And when you do your program search, you could search for MAE2 or Master of Education in Math Education - Professional Cohort. It's very important that you select the one that says Professional Cohort and a September 2022 start. If you have a UBC ID from a previous study at UBC, again, we ask that you use that ID. We want you to upload all of your supporting documents. You can re-enter your application after you have submitted it. The deadline is March 21st, 2022. Like to see all of your supporting documents. You may see that deadline for your document and reference be different, because typically we give a week or 2 extra so that all of the documents can come in. And the application fee is $110 for domestic applicants, which are Canadian citizens and permanent residents, and $168.25 Canadian for international applicants. Now, the domestic tuition fee cost is currently at $15,752 and change plus student fees. And the domestic tuition fee installment is currently $22.50 and change plus student fees. If you're an international student, the current international program tuition cost is $16,697 Canadian plus student fees. And the international tuition fee installment is currently $23.85 and change Canadian plus student fees. And the student fees were approximately $770 in last year between September to December. Now the tuition is paid in 7 installments, which covers 7 terms, and that's 3 terms per year: September to December, January to April, and then May through August. The summer term is divided up into 2, but you pay 1 tuition fee. And please note that you are paying for a whole program, not on a per credit basis. And the university typically raises fees every year, usually in May. And I believe last year it was about 3%. Now, students are charged in addition to tuition, student fees, and they vary from term to term. And if you qualify, you can opt out of a couple of student fees, like the health and dental fee, if you've already have coverage, which is approximately $264. And the other one is the UPass fee. If you live outside of the Greater Vancouver area, where Vancouver Transit doesn't reach you, then you can apply for a UPass exemption. You would have to do that each term, but it is a savings of $170 per term. Tuition fee certificates. This is directed to teachers in the Vancouver Lower Mainland that have taken UBC students in their classrooms as student teachers. If this applies to you, please contact the teacher education office, and their information is on the screen. So if you've taken on a student teacher and you have one of these tuition fee certificates that hasn't expired, that can also go towards your tuition, which is another savings for you. Does anyone have any questions? I see a question from Tara. If they are sealed records, do we open them and scan them? Yes.
Okay, maybe while you're forming your questions, there's questions on the application process and then questions about the program itself. I'll just share my screen, and I wanted to also welcome Dr. Susan Jarosky, who will talk a little bit about her course that she's currently teaching. But before we do that, Susan, I'm just going to share a little bit about some of the impact that the program has had on the current first group that's going through. And because again, the theme is connecting math, community, and culture, what we're trying to do is, as you've noticed in my previous slides, is let's think about that reciprocity, and that interrelatedness, and where are these places and spaces where we can bring opportunities to do mathematics together and to think together with mathematics. And so a number of the people in our current cohort that has 27 people, mainly from across BC, British Columbia, but rural as well as urban. So maybe we have quite a few from the Lower Mainland, but many from rural British Columbia, and from kindergarten, as I had mentioned, up to the university level. But a number of teachers in the group, cohort members, presented at various conferences as a result of being in the program, where we've made some of our assignments related to thinking about attending a conference. We attended an international STEM conference, and this one where we actually attended the Northwest Math Conference and presented about our work on Indigenous math and story work. And so there were 4 or 5 teachers who participated in this conference. And we were, I just heard a note from the organizers that they were so impressed with our work here that they want us to come back and present again at this coming year's conference at Whistler. Teachers in the cohort have also led professional workshops, and we've had a series here of 4 webinars, and I've had, I think, 12 teachers in the cohort who have participated and led collaboratively together. We've been working on this. I've led various workshops to people across BC and Canada. We've also have had people in the cohort publish their articles or their papers that they produce as a result of the coursework. Here's one by Jessica Bella, who has a paper published in Vector, which is the math educator or the journal for mathematics teachers in BC. We've also worked in one of our courses on, rather than a face-to-face math fair, we had a virtual family math fair where we had like 300 participants, 150 families from across Canada and the United States come together to do mathematics on a Saturday morning for a couple hours. And that was really cool. So those were some of the activities and engagements that we've had and have really kind of brought people from thinking about teaching in their classroom to connecting with each other in the cohort. The beautiful thing about the cohort is people have made friends for life and they've actually traveled to various communities and met each other, even so that they're not just meeting online. But it's given an opportunity for thinking about mathematics in different contexts, thinking about our own teaching in different areas, rural and urban, and across different grade levels. And this is also, these are like 5 different websites that people in the cohort had built as part of assignments in the course. This was a choice that they wanted to make, is to create their own website to share and show their own learning. And you can see the range of the topics here. So just some examples of, I think, the impact that this cohort is making on math education in BC and across Canada. And so I just wanted to pass it now to Dr. Susan Jarofsky, who is currently teaching a course. I called it, Susan, I called it Mathematics, Art, and the Body, but I don't think that's the exact title. So maybe you can just share a few minutes of what the course is about and some of the activities that you're working with students on. This is EdCP 553. So Susan, I'll just pass to you.
Right. Thank you, Cynthia. And hello, everybody. And welcome to this session. I'm happy to meet you briefly online here. I'm teaching the 553 course in with the current cohort. And I'm just going to remind myself what I called it. There's a lot of things in there. I called it Teaching and Learning Embodied Mathematics Outdoors and Via the Arts. So there's several things involved here. It's so I just to give you a bit of my own background, I taught adult education and I taught high school, each one for about 10 years before I came to the university. And what I saw was that in a lot of contexts, people taught mathematics in a way that was very static, so where the students sat absolutely still and silent and just copied things down and did exercises. And so I began to experiment with other ways of teaching and learning that involved moving your body, some kind of movement. It could be something like dance, it could be something like walking, or it could be something like sketching. Getting outdoors, so doing mathematics outside the 4 walls of the classroom sometimes, and doing mathematics through the arts. And by the arts, I mean all the visual and performing arts. So it could be drama, it could be music, it could be painting or sculpture, or dance. So those are all facets that we're looking at in this course. And part of the idea is that we're not trying to get rid of all the traditional ways of teaching math, not at all. But we're trying to integrate the traditional ways that are symbolic and working on with pencil and paper indoors with other ways of understanding the mathematics to gain a richer understanding. So, so in this course, I can see somebody's asking about the scheduling of the classes. So this class that I'm teaching is, and I think all the classes in the cohort, as far as I know, are all online and asynchronous, which means that you don't have to be online at any particular given time. But each week there are new activities, new readings, new viewings of videos and things like that that are offered for the class, and there's certain dates when you have to have something written and shared with your classmates and so on, and discussions. Now we do have optional Zoom sessions, and right now we're doing them on Saturday mornings because that seems to be the best time for this particular group, but we did a poll to find out what would work best for everyone. But they're completely optional. They're not required. And we do record the Zoom sessions so that the recordings are put up on our class website, so that those who can't make the meetings on Saturdays, that's fine. They can just watch the video afterwards. So that's a little introduction, Cynthia. I'm not quite sure if I should say more or if that's enough.
I think that's a nice whetting the appetite, I hope, for people. Thank you very much, Susan. Are there any questions that anybody has about the structure of the courses? Susan's given a bit of a sense of how her course is structured, or across the 7 terms. Tara?
Going to try to unmute and stuff like that. My apologies. I was having a hard time. I'm really interested, and I really loved what I read and what I was able to find out about this program, and it seems to be a really good fit. I was hoping to do the program in person and not online, and thank you for sending me that link, Cynthia. But even when I go into it, there's not that much information. There's a lot of information about this program, or more information about the online version than the in-person version. And are they very different from each other, or are they the same?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that question, because actually they are a little different. Because
Thank you.
I guess the thing that's different is because we are a cohort, there's an actual theme to this cohort, and the theme is connecting math, community, and culture. And it has that philosophy that I discussed earlier, and what Susan has just shared, of trying to think about taking math outside the 4 walls of the container, trying to think about how we can do mathematics with the community, etc. The courses that are offered that you see here on the screen, all of these are the same courses you would take if you were taking the program on campus, but then not necessarily with this particular theme. So you would still take, so you would still take a course on teaching youth math. You would still take a course. They're labeled a little differently. Like we've created a course experience for you that's connected to this theme. So that you're right. And thank you for raising that, because I hadn't really thought of it that way. The same courses, the same, everything else is the same, but the theme is different.
See, for me, it's the theme that I want to explore, which is why I would do my master's in math. I don't want to do it if it's just another whole bunch of math courses. The whole point for me was the cultural and community connection around math, and that's what I wanted to focus on. But I really don't want to do it online if I can avoid it.
Have you talked to anybody? Have you talked to anybody who has done it online? I can connect you with some people if you want. If you want to have just a conversation with somebody who. I
was preferring to take time off of work and do the program in a chunk of time and really focus on it. But I do want to do it within the themes. Otherwise, it's not the master's program I want. So I just didn't know if that existed outside of the online version or not.
I mean, to some extent, the courses that we teach, these are the same 551, 553, 550, and 552. Those 4 math courses are required. And when we teach them, like I've taught the 551 and the 550, I mean, I bring in both the theme to some extent, but in a little, it's not quite as encompassing as it is here, because we have different students who, and so it's just, it's a little different. But yeah, I know. And Susan, you've designed the course, the 553. to be more fitting to the theme of the cohort, and you would teach it maybe a little different on campus. So it kind of depends on the year and who's around, who's taking the course on campus, and who's.
Okay, it's a bit tricky because in order to get release time for education and approval from your district and support possibly from the district, you need to apply within a certain time frame. So not knowing when this might be offered in non-online, but with the same theme, because those themes are what my district is focusing on. So I would get probably funding for that and release time to attend. And I'd pay for the other part of the coursework. But that would have to be with a full-time program, not with the online version, part-time, right?
But I don't mean to take too much time, but I'll just say one last thing with yours. But there are lots of on-campus courses that fit with looking at Indigenous ways of knowing, Indigenous methodologies, culture, literature. So you could probably put together a program that might fit your interests, that aren't just these particular courses, and maybe not only in math. So if you want to chat more, let me know. I can certainly help you out there. Thanks, Tara. Anybody else have any questions? Melissa.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? I'm an art teacher and a gardener, drama teacher, and I'm like, I love math, but I'm afraid of it. And so I'm going, is this going to be over my head? I don't know. But what I want to do is get out of the classroom without the confines of the classroom and learn in realistic, relevant ways that are meaningful for children so that they connect to what they're learning and they want to grow and learn with it and see how it's going to be impactful in their own lives. So that's why I'm super interested in it. I'm just afraid that if I sign up and then I'm in, I'm going, oh my God, I do not know what this math is about.
Yeah, you don't need any degree in math or science to participate. You just need a willing interest, which sounds like what you have, and a curiosity and interest to try to think about what it means to teach math. And I think everything you just described there is pretty much connected to the course Susan just shared, and as well as the other courses. So it is all about trying to connect with students' wonder, their experiences, trying to develop more caring relationships in mathematics, because we've done a lot of damage in math in the past. I think, you're talking about it just yourself, saying, you're wondering if this is for you. This is for you, for sure.
Okay, awesome. And it's just one course at a time, so it's doable. Like, I'm a substitute school teacher, so I figured I could probably do 3 some days a week or something, and then I'm separated, so of course my daughter's with her dad sometimes, and I imagine I could probably make it work.
It's just one course each term. Some people double up, like they might take an elective at the same time. But it's up to you how you want to spread that out. And as Yvette said, you can take as many courses as you like and the tuition doesn't change, but you still have to pay these 7 installments.
That's right.
That's still required, but you can certainly, and it's doable in the sense that you don't, like, we have these optional meetings that Susan was talking about, that we sort of figure out what's the best time to meet for a couple hours or an hour and a half, so at least we can have some discussion. But again, those are optional, and those are put up on the Canvas website shell related to the course so that you can view them. But otherwise you can go through, the set of activities for that week at your own pace.
Right on.
So that's really helpful. Yeah.
Sounds
good.
Fantastic.
Okay, I look forward to seeing your application.
Yes. Yeah, I better get on it. Okay.
Thanks, Melissa. Okay.
Bye.
Mohammed, do you have what different methods of assessment are used for this program? That's a good question. I think that because this is a graduate course, I think most of the instructors, I know I can say something, and Susan, you could fill in for as one of the instructors, but I try to make this as many of the assignments are an option with many choices. So for one of our assignments, people had a choice if they wanted to do a lit review or create a website or write a proposal to present at a conference, and they had a choice of how they wanted to actually think about what they wanted to dive into and then how they wanted to present their work. So at this level, it's a place to explore and not be too worried about, you know, there's 5 marks for this and 2 marks for that and 3 marks for that. It's not, it isn't, there's some self-assessment related to it in terms of our discussions, but much of it is really around diving into areas that you really want to explore further. And because that's the case, everybody usually does fairly well because they're working in areas that they're really curious about, and they're trying to bring in the course ideas and readings and discussion with each other to try to help enlarge and you know, extend their own thinking. Do you want to add anything to that, Susan?
Sure. I mean, I can just speak for the course that I'm teaching right now, that also because it's a professional master's, I try to design the assessment as something that would be useful to people in their professional lives. And so, and I've also consulted with the group. So at our last Zoom session, we had a discussion about the, you know, I sort of drafted a final assignment, and then we talked it over, and it's shifted a little bit because of people's input. So we're collaboratively designing it. But the assignment is to do some curriculum design for some math teaching at whatever, you know, grade level or age level that you're teaching, that incorporates, that integrates the arts, that integrates getting outside, using your body, and some of those things. And it can be anything from a series of lessons to activities to a project that you do with your group, and sort of grounding it in readings that you've done, grounding it in your own experiences, and thinking about, and maybe even trying it out with a group that you're teaching and see, you know, if there's a chance to do that. And we're planning, and the format that most people will be using is a PowerPoint presentation with a recorded voiceover with photos they've taken of what they're doing and what they're planning. And we're hoping that quite a few people will present at the Investigating Our Practices UBC Faculty of Education Conference. It's in May. I think, is that on this year, Cynthia? I can't hear you. You've got your...
Sorry, it's not on this year, but I put it on pause. Yeah.
Oh, because we saw, somebody looked up the website and said, yeah, it's on certain days in May, May 4th or something like that.
It's usually the first Saturday in May.
Oh,
So,
darn.
but we can talk about another possibility. I have an idea.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll find a way to let people present. And there's also weekly short pieces of writing, you know, sort of responding to the work we're doing each week, and then people talking to each other in small reading groups of 3 people. So there's a sort of weekly little bits of writing where people have online discussions, and I join in on with the different groups and so on. So that's what we're doing.
Great, good question. Thank you for that, Mohammed. Any other questions?
I see Tamara's asked something in the chat here.
Approximately how many hours of readings or coursework per week while in the program?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, in the last information session we had, 2 of the students from the cohort attended, and they said that they were reading maybe 8 hours a week. I think that was, I don't know, that seems like about right. I think about 8 hours a week, like a couple hours every night or so, 1.5 hours a night, kind of working on that week's readings. And then, yeah, that seem about right, Susan? Have you had anybody?
I haven't had anyone tell exactly how many hours they've been spending, but I would think it might be 3 to 4 evenings a week, an hour or 2 each time, something like that.
Yeah. That's different for each person for reading. But in the course I taught, we used a book. Sorry, you can hear my dog whining, but we used a book for each of the courses, and we read a chapter in the book and then another article. So usually it's like maybe 1 or 2 things. And then we had some short videos that we would watch. We tried to have a multimedia approach. So it wasn't only or read a newspaper or listen to a podcast. So it wasn't just reading heavy articles with very small print. It was something that was engaging, and we had, you know, good questions that I think both Susan and I are trying to think of that would engage the readings and your own experiences as well. So it's that philosophy of thinking of the classroom that you're working in and teaching in, and these readings to not be two separate things, you know, the world of theory and the world of the classroom, that we're really thinking about these as one and the other. It's really hard to teach if you're not theorizing about why did this turn out the way it did. You know, you're actually thinking about theory when you're doing that. And when you're reading a paper, you might read, oh, geez, I'd like to try that in my classroom. So it's, you know, it's a back and forth. It's a very dialogic conversation that you have and that you can do. And what's wonderful about having a cohort is that we can be moving through this together and be sharing our experiences and our ideas and our questions along the way. Any other questions for us in the chat? Yeah.
Tamara asked, is there an option for students to write a thesis at the end of this program? And that
Yeah, there's not an option for a thesis that's worth 9 credits, but there is an option to write a graduating paper that includes research. And often the boundary between the thesis and the graduating paper can be a bit blurry. Some students write an outstanding graduating paper that could be a thesis. But if you're thinking about moving on or keeping that door open to maybe do some further graduate work at the PhD level, then it's really important that you do a graduating paper that has some opportunities for research. And that can look like various things. It could be around trying something out in your class and recording and documenting what happened. Could be interviewing some students or working with some colleagues on trying to think about designing some curriculum materials or some of the things that you created in the class or the courses. So it can look in very different ways, or it could be something working at the district level. So opportunities to think about a research paper is what you would want to do for the 590 if you wanted to think about a thesis. Anything else there that?
I see another question from Angela in the chat. What methods do you use to encourage discussion among students?
Do you want to start with that one, Susan?
Sure. So in my class, there people are in reading groups of 3 or 4 people, and part of the sort of weekly activities is to actually try some activities, read an article. Each person in the group reads a different article, and there's an introduction, and there's something that we screen, a film or podcast, something like that. And then each person does a little bit of writing of their own response to what they read and what they saw and how it connects with their work and their life. And then each person is asked to respond to the others in their group. So it's there's a sort of a dialogue in writing that happens there. And then at every second week or so, we have a Zoom session. And during that session, there's lots of discussion there too. So I might just raise a question, and then everyone gets chances to respond to each other, ask new questions.
Yeah, good. In my classes, in an online format, there's a discussion board where people questions are posed, and then we try to respond within a certain period of time and then respond to each other's. In Canvas, because there are 27, we actually made smaller groups, 3 small groups with 9 people, and use those as our discussion groups. And those were randomly decided each week. So you were with a different group of 9 people responding and talking to each other through Canvas. So it's through an online discussion board, but also through the Zoom meetings that we continue our discussions. And then Mohammed asks about the method of delivery. Is it different on the transcript? I don't think so. Is that right, Yvette? Can you confirm that? I think it just says an MEd.
It just says an MEd in math education. It will not mention online on the transcript or on the diploma certificate.
Angela, I don't know if we answered your question. What methods do you use to encourage discussion? You know what? I guess we just have such interesting podcasts and videos and readings that there's not much encouragement and questions that prompt it. You know, like there might be, try this. This is what someone said in a paper. Try it in your class and see if you get the same thing. Let's talk about it. You know, is there just? I think we just think of really good things to prompt and motivate the curiosity. So once that's there, it just sort of comes and it just spirals, right? So don't know what else to say about that one. Sounds good. Okay. With none what? None. Okay. No communication. Okay. Yeah, there's no course like that in our program. Every course has communication. And in the end, I think students are saying that they really love the cohort model just because they've really gotten to know each other very well. And they've now have, you know, a group of people that they connect with. Actually, here's one thing just to show you as an example. In the course I just finished teaching last term, in December it finished, but I had a student who's in New Denver, which is a very rural town in British Columbia, and a student in the Lower Mainland, and they brought their own students together through a project. So the students met together through Zoom, and they actually did a project around looking at prices and how the prices of food differ in different parts of British Columbia. In the far north, where you are, Sean, like way up there. And then what does it look like in the Lower Mainland, and what does it look like in a small rural community? And then the students went out into the shopping stores and looked at prices. They decided together what prices they would look for. And then they looked to see what kinds of differences there were. So, I mean, that kind of happens in this kind of an environment where you have everybody's in a spot where they can share their ideas. And some people actually met in the summer, met up, so they're able to, you know, continue that relationship and friendship. Okay, so Tamara, I did the same project with a class in Ontario. So that's cool, Melissa. See, Melissa, you're already in the program. Tamara, if I'm interested in eventually pursuing a PhD in education, would this MEd allow me to do that? Yes. Yes, it would, Tamara, but you would need to do the graduating paper, and the graduating paper would need to have some research, evidence of research in that. And also what we look for, I can only talk to applying to UBC, but we look for publications. So if you can take some of your papers like Jessica did, that I showed you, she actually published a paper in the Vector journal. But if you can think about where you can publish your work and taking this graduating paper, which has some research, those will all be opportunities for you to strengthen your application for a PhD. You wouldn't need to pursue an MA in addition to that if you wanted to get into UBC and elsewhere. It's just really a matter of showing that you are able to do some research. Susan, do you want to read the next one? Is that one from Tamara as well? Or Tara? Oh, there's Tara and there's Tamara. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't see anything after Tamara's one.
Okay, good. Tamara, that's good for you? Okay. Tara asks, if for some reason you're unable to complete the coursework, can you rejoin another cohort later? Yeah, that happens. You know, things change in our lives. We have one person in our cohort who has a family, a young family, and found that he needed to take a leave of absence for a little bit. And the others have found they moved to a new job and needed for that term to just take a break. And you're certainly able to do that. And then you can just rejoin the program when you can, and we'll figure out how to make it work for you. So that, yeah, so not to worry about that. So I think have we answered everybody's question? We're coming close to 5, but we can certainly answer anything else anybody has. Everybody's okay on the application process? Any questions related to that? Letters of reference, you're okay there? Okay. Okay. Well, I hope that everybody applies because I've just loved teaching in this cohort, and it's been just a wonderful experience. And I'm just excited to be able to think about offering another cohort with new people who are just as excited about thinking about these amazing ideas. So I hope to see your application. Both Susan and I will be a part of reading them over and providing some feedback, along with our colleague, Dr. Ann Anderson. Yeah, if you have any questions, just please let us know. We're available. So thank you very much for joining. Oh, just confirming. So just wait, there's more. Yvette is the person to email for admission help. Yeah, If you need anything to do with admission, if you have any questions about your reference letters, like who to ask, you can contact myself or Susan. If you have any questions about your letter of intent, you know, what you want to write in that, I can help you with that. But anything about transcripts and the application process in that way, then Yvette is the person to contact. Good. Good, Mohammed. I hope to see your application. That's good. Okay, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much for your interest. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, bye.